In the shadows of the ancient land, Cadmus, the warrior prince, moved with the weight of destiny upon his shoulders. Clad in gleaming bronze armor, he entered the mysterious and wild terrain, unaware of the darkness that lay ahead. The land was untamed, filled with old whispers and forgotten legends. A sacred spring glimmered in the distance, but its beauty was guarded by a serpent, a creature as ancient as the stones beneath his feet. Its scales shimmered, reflecting a malevolent gaze that had witnessed centuries. Cadmus had traveled far, driven by an unrelenting desire to find his lost sister, Europa. Stolen by Zeus, her absence was a wound that festered in his heart. But the oracle had spoken, guiding him to abandon his search. Instead, he was to follow a cow, an unlikely divine sign that would lead him to his fate. He obeyed the oracle, allowing the cow to lead his steps across the unknown land. When it finally lowered itself to rest upon the earth, Cadmus knew that this place would become his legacy. Here, he would lay the foundations of a city that would rise from obscurity, Thebes. Yet the soil of Thebes was cursed from the start, tainted by an ancient malevolence. To build his city, Cadmus had to slay the dragon that guarded the sacred spring, a monster revered by Ares himself. The act was a blasphemy in the eyes of the gods. Guided by Athena's wisdom, Cadmus planted the serpent's teeth into the ground, a ritual that unleashed a new horror. From those teeth sprang fierce warriors, the Sparti, formidable and relentless. Like specters they emerged, born from Earth's tainted blood, ready to stain it further. The Sparti were warriors born of violence, and their hearts knew no peace. As Cadmus watched them battle fiercely among themselves, blood called to blood, and they soon chose to build what would become Thebes. But the curse lingered, woven into the fate of Cadmus and his kin. For though he wed Harmonia, the daughter of Ares and Aphrodite, doom was etched into their lineage. Their union was strong, yet the whisper of bloodshed shadowed their every step. As Thebes grew in might, its stones sang of triumph and woe. Cadmus's descendants would inherit the darkness, forever bound by the cursed soil that birthed their battleground. Thus, Cadmus's story, one of ambition, divine intervention, and haunted legacy, unfolded like a tragic epic, a testament to the heartache that the gods could not absolve. A great city had risen, but beneath its grandeur, a deeper curse simmered, eternal, unyielding. Blood called to blood, and as the tales of Thebes retold their dread, so too did its cursed soul linger in the annals of time. In the shadow-covered halls of Thebes, whispered tales of a prophecy swirled through corridors long burdened by destiny. King Laius and Queen Jocasta, direct descendants of Cadmus who slew the dragon, had their own legacy to contend with. Despite being a beacon of power, Thebes was not yet free from the malignant gaze of fate. During their reign, the dreaded voice of the oracle echoed a grim prophecy. A son born of Laius will kill his father and lay with his mother. Fearful of the ominous prediction that colored their future in ominous black, the royal couple resolved to defy the gods and sever fate's twisted threads. In an act of desperation masked as merciful betrayal, Laius and Jocasta sent their newborn son to die on the lonely and inhospitable heights of empty Cythera. The baby's cries were stifled by the whistle of cold winds, the very mountains serving as a silent witness to the tragedy of a fate set in motion. Yet, the gods looked not through blind eyes. The cycle continued. The infant's survival would be ensured by a gentle shepherd who cradled him from the clutches of death. The child, named Oedipus, grew up in Corinth, unaware of his royal blood and the curse that latched onto his destiny. Cherished by his adoptive parents, Polybus and Merope, he was raised far from Thebes and the shadows that loomed there. Even so, On that day, when destiny approached him in dreams wrapped in riddles and nightmares of his bloody fate, he resolved to evade the web laid out before him. Fleeing the city of Corinth, the young prince sought to leave behind the blight of his likely destiny. His journey was clouded in misfortune, culminating on a forked mountain path. In a heated confrontation over precedence on the narrow road, Oedipus struck down a stranger with fury as sharp as a blade. Alas, he was ignorant of the truth. He had fulfilled the first part of the prophecy by unwittingly killing his biological father, King Laius. Oedipus's path led him to Thebes, where he came upon a town terrorized by the enigmatic Sphinx. The winged creature perched upon Thebes' walls, asking travelers a riddle that none could solve until Oedipus arrived. With deft intellect, he unveiled the answer and banished the creature, saving the city and paving his way to the throne. Exalted and welcomed as a hero and savior, he wed the widowed queen, Jocasta, his mother, unknowingly entwining himself further within the dark tapestry foretold. The kingdom of Thebes thrummed with festivity, oblivious. But fate, ever lurking and inevitable, began to unpeel the coverlid of truth. Threads unravel as tangled past lies resurfaced. The kingdom trembled under the weight of pestilence and famine, urging Oedipus to uncover the cause. The quest for truth led him through corridors of treachery and shame until finally, pronouncements of guilt and self-realization scorched his soul in a blaze of irrevocable horror. Each moment of realization was a dagger twisting deep into his already beleaguered spirit. Oedipus, the king who saved Thebes, found himself the reason for its suffering, the son who had murdered his father and took his mother as bride. Blinded by his agony and remorse, Oedipus thrust himself into the abyss of despair, cursing the day of his forced success and their decisions. His tale serves as a haunting reminder of the desperate folly in denying the fate that binds us all. The distant wailing of a forlorn wind swept through the twisting alleys of Thebes, a city strangled by the remorseless grip of a plague. The citizens, shadows of their former selves, wandered aimlessly, their eyes reflecting the despair that bled into every corner. Night fell, bringing a shroud of darkness that concealed secrets better left buried. In the midst of this sorrow, King Oedipus vowed to rid Thebes of its suffering. The tormented cries of his people echoed in his mind, a constant reminder of his duty as the ruler. With resolve in his heart, he sought answers, yearning to uncover the malignant source of their torment. Enter Tiresias, the blind prophet, whose sightless eyes could pierce the very fabric of fate. Summoned to the bleak palace, he stood before Oedipus, his presence a harbinger of truths unspoken. But the weight of his revelation was insufferable. The prophecy had been fulfilled, the plague lingered not by whim, but by the bloodline of the king himself. "It is you, Oedipus," Tiresias murmured, his voice resonating like the eerie rumble of a distant storm. Oedipus recoiled at the words, refusing to believe that he was the architect of their misery. Yet, as pieces of the ominous puzzle fell into place, a chilling realization pierced his soul. The tangled strings of destiny unraveled, revealing the horrific truth he had fought to deny. In desperation, entrapped by the chilling embrace of fate, Jocasta shrieked her disbelief, a scream that reverberated through the hollow halls before submitting to silence. Her despair led her to the shadows, where life abandoned her body as she took the noose in hand. With each revelation, the darkness that shrouded Oedipus grew ever more dense, finally suffocating any remnant of hope. In a paroxysm of grief and guilt, he clawed at his eyes, the crimson tears blinding him from the horrors laid bare. Exiled from the city he once ruled, Oedipus wandered blind, a spectral figure of ruin, haunted by the looming specters of his actions. And so the curse persisted, whispering through the lineage of Cadmus. Oedipus's sons, inheritors of anguish, would clash in furious war, driven by a destiny painted in the gloom. The shadows of their fates entwined, each step echoing the cries of an ancient curse. Through blood, through time, through fate, the mist of tragedy embraced Thebes, forever echoing the screams of a king who dared defy prophecies written in the stars. The shadows of Thebes grew longer as the sun slipped behind the mountains, outlining the city's proud walls in golden gloom. Among these walls, tragedy clung like a shroud, whispering tales of sorrow and defiance. Below the towering citadels stood Antigone, a girl carved from the very essence of courage and resolve. Antigone was the daughter of Oedipus, a cursed figure whose legacy was steeped in both tragedy and honor. Her brothers, Eteocles and Polynices, were as different as they were similar, both warriors, yet entrenched on opposing sides of a brutal conflict for Thebes. The battlefield claimed both their lives, leaving Thebes to a new ruler, Creon, uncle to the fallen. Creon was a man with stone in his jaw and ice in his veins, determined to impose order through fear and unyielding authority. He decreed that Eteocles, who fought to defend Thebes, would be honored in his burial, while Polynices, the rebel, would be left to rot, exposed to the crows and the elements. To Antigone, this edict was not just laws betrayed. It was a desecration of sacred duty. Desolate yet resolute, she whispered into the night skies, "I was not born to share in hate, but in love." With those words, an empty courtyard her only witness, she crept silently to the corpse of Polynices. Under a shroud of stars, she covered him with earth, performing the rites her brother was owed and challenging the decree that sought to dehumanize him. Her act of defiance could not stay hidden for long. Guards dragged her before Creon's throne, where his eyes flared cold judgment. Antigone stood unbowed, embers of defiance in her gaze. To Creon, she was a threat. To Thebes, a savior of familial honor. For who would dare disobey me? Antigone's life ebbed within that cold sepulchre, a tomb apparent to her despair. Abandoned to her fate, she chose the final act of defiance. She ended her life, leaving her spirit unchained to the cursed legacy bestowed upon her. The morose chorus of fate did not spare Creon's family. His son, Haman, betrothed to Antigone, discovered her lifeless form. Stricken with sorrow, unable to reconcile a life without her, he took his own life beside her cold body. The tragedy rippled further, reaching Creon's wife, Eurydice, who could not withstand this cascade of grief. She too succumbed, ending her life before the altar. The once mighty city of Thebes, though fortified in structure, grieved in spirit. Now hollow and haunted, its streets echoed with sorrow as its people mourned the devastation left by unchecked power, lamenting lost families, love, and a way of life now fading into silence. Creon stood alone amidst the desolation, a king crowned in ashes alongside the ruins of what had once been noble and proud. Thus, the legacy of Antigone grew eternal, a stark reminder that human decency, when sacrificed at the altar of tyranny, leads only to mourning in the heart of cities that once dared to dream. The gods may shape fate, but it is humans who suffer it.